Aloha. This is chapter 8 of my Spirit of Parenting book, and this chapter is called I Can't Stand to Hear Them Cry. And before we begin, please remember one thing, which is that normally when I'm on my YouTube site, I just speak spontaneously. But because these are chapters of a book that's already written, then I have to kind of read. And so I hope you understand that and can put up with that. So you can't stand to hear them cry? Well, good for you. Because you know you aren't supposed to be able to ignore your crying child. Nature has actually hardwired us so that the sound of an upset child literally stops us in our tracks. It's impossible to ignore because the child's life might depend on you paying attention when they're upset. And so we're supposed to do absolutely nothing else but take care of them until that crying has ceased. So I guess I'd say it's a sign of our own good instincts. It's a sign of our own open heart and our courage to respond to children in distress, even if they're not ours. So during this time of pandemic, this time of unraveling, because we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next, and when this not knowing will be over. We don't know that. There are no guarantees right now. So both you and your children may be crying more than normal. So I say, please listen to your children when they're upset. And even more important, maybe, I say, please listen to you when you're upset. It's perfectly natural not to know the answers for whatever they're upset about. But you must listen to them. You must pay attention to them. Because this nonsense about letting children cry until they give up, that's really, really dangerous. It teaches them, even from the earliest age, even before they can talk, when they're pre-verbal, you not listening, you not paying attention, teaches them that it's useless to ask for attention, that no one even cares enough to respond. So no wonder that we have teenagers with an attitude, a giant attitude that says, no one understands me, no one cares what I think or feel. And I can tell you that the seeds, the very beginning of such an attitude, those seeds are planted in your infancy, their infancy. And then they begin to take root during the toddler stage, which is why we call it the terrible twos. And then it lies dormant until, with the fertilization of teenage hormones, you suddenly have a 13-year-old with a very big attitude. And finally, you probably also have a very big attitude. But it's probably at this point suppressed, or maybe it's even guilty, because you're just too overwhelmed, too ashamed, too embarrassed, too preoccupied. And so you realize that you're pretty much just pretending to listen to your child or yourself, when you just wish that everyone would just shut up. So even in the name of efficiency, I can promise you that you save time and trouble in the long run by responding to your sad or crying child, or to your sad or crying self. Children who feel neglected or misunderstood, they unconsciously create accidents, traumas, temper tantrums, and they don't even know why. But at a deeper level, they believe that they can't get your attention without having a crisis. And so by the time they reach teenagehood, they'll be creating drama worthy of Shakespearean tragedy. And if you aren't listening to your child, it's not because you're selfish. It's probably because you're overwhelmed or exhausted, or because no one listened to you earlier, and maybe because no one listens to you now. So find someone you can talk to so that you have spaciousness, emptiness, so that you have room inside to hear your child. But if you're already nose to nose with an angry and vindictive child, a teenager who is menacingly bigger and taller than you, don't panic. It's not too late. Try something totally unexpected. For example, honest humility works wonders. It works miracles. So here's a suggestion. If your teenager is upset with you, even if your little kid is upset with you, here's the thing to try. Get all dressed up. Get your child dressed up if they want. And take your suspicious, sullen kid to his favorite restaurant and order something so outrageously wonderful that it gets through even the toughest walls of coolness and dismissal and protection. And then, without any guilt, but with the sweetest, greatest vulnerability, tell your bewildered and formerly hostile teenager or little kid that you have made a terrible mistake. Explain that you were raised in the Dark Ages, when the prevailing wisdom was that children were meant to be seen and not heard, and that no one ever taught you to even expect attention, and that you never learned to pay attention, to give attention, to hear. You never learned to hear or to be heard. And that you've only recently discovered that this ancient teaching was such nonsense. So ask him or her to teach you how to be a better parent. And you can't fake this. They'll see right through you. But if you really want to learn, what would have happened if you hadn't learned, if you hadn't been taught to shut up? If you hadn't been taught to develop coping mechanisms that keep you from speaking tender truth. So ask this child to teach you how to be a better parent. And all they have to do is, when you're in the middle of something, they just say, "Hey, Mom, how about if you tried it this way? Or I could hear you better if I could hear kindness in your voice." And then you have to mean what you say, because it takes a very big adult to be the student. I am so, so proud of you. Namaste.